Everyone knows the mantra, assign the right offer to the right customer through the right channel. Oh, and at the right time too. But what is the right time? I'm convinced that we typically give lip service to that last part, at the right time. It's unlikely that we share common definitions of what the right time is, much less how to optimize for it. Corios has been focused for the last decade on defining and solving this problem by combining the disciplines of predictive and time series modeling and creating brand new techniques for transaction analytics, and the results are impressive. We've helped a national digital retailer achieve 25% increase in sales revenues by applying transaction analytics to optimize their customer contact policies. We've helped a national bank to improve the predictive accuracy of a home mortgage pre-qualification model by 70% in the top decile and by 311% in the top percentile. We've helped a national credit issuer to improve the correct identification of the top decile of at-risk cardholders by 113% through our blend of transactional analytics. And we've helped a global payments processor earn a 7-to-1 return on investment in merchant sales stimulation campaigns. Those results aren't just significant, they're game-changing. Corios has dubbed this solution Veloce, which in musical conventions means rapid. At Corios, we tell the story numbers can't. Telling the story of the consumers, using their transactions as the ink on the page, meant developing an entirely new way of analyzing data, and it stems from looking at consumer behavior differently than the traditional conventions of applied mathematics and big data. The first fundamental basis for this approach is based on our observation that objects in nature don't move in straight lines. Scientists think some organisms, like trees, grow following fractal patterns. Water moves in waves. Crystals follow geometric yet imperfect lines. And wind travels in arcs. Similarly, people don't move in straight lines. An organism capable of goal-seeking intelligence who wants to travel in a straight line is influenced or constrained by other forces, such as light, temperature, wind, air pressure, nutrients, other creatures, natural barriers, and even microscopic forces like photosynthesis and strong nuclear interactions. When you zoom out or zoom way in, you'll agree that there are forces that compel us to move in curves rather than straight lines. Not only that, we anticipate and adapt to curves in order to pursue a desirable outcome. How are people influenced by these forces? For starters, artists, engineers, and architects all emulate nature's tendency to follow curved paths. The most remarkable buildings around the world were heavily influenced by curves and natural movement. The next way people are influenced by the tendency of nature to follow curved lines is that we anticipate and adapt to curves. Athletes provide some rich examples of anticipating and adapting to curves. Baseball pitchers have developed more than a dozen ways to grip and throw a baseball, and in doing so, trick the batter into swinging the bat where the ball won't be. Okay, you might be asking, what does nature, art, and architecture have to do with consumer decision making? Let's turn to a real-world example using how consumers shop for mortgages. This is a pretty important decision, and most consumers start by pursuing answers to some key questions. Is this something I can and should do? Who can help me? Who can I trust? What are the steps in the process? Oh, before I apply for a mortgage and start shopping for a home, I need to get a pre-qualification? Okay, how do I do that? How can I save money? Hey, it looks like I can get several competitive pre-qualification bids by approaching multiple lenders, so let's do that. I'd like these 2 or 3 banks to compete for my business, and then I'll pick the winner. The consumer is asking all of these questions and more at a distance from the bank and their bankers. Their pursuit of education and advice is almost invisible to us, but they do leave some breadcrumbs for us to follow. We can observe some of their activities and convert those activities into scores. The problem is, traditional methods for scoring move too slowly, are backwards looking, and don't respond to the customer at the right time. We ought to be able to monitor our customers' activities and proactively intercede during the customer search for information, converting that into guidance and strengthening the customer's preference for our brand and service. Here's a simple example that illustrates this problem. A regional bank has 3 customers, green, yellow, and red. Green is middle-aged with a family, has multiple accounts with the bank, large balances, is not a current homeowner but has a strong similarity to the bank's other mortgage customers. Hence, the bank has assigned green a pretty high score for likelihood to apply to the mortgage. Yellow is a new, younger customer with only a single checking account at the bank who has a strong credit score and travels a lot. Yellow has a lower score for the potential to apply for a mortgage than green. What the bank doesn't know is yellow's getting married and wants to buy a downtown apartment. And if the bank knew that, their score ought to be higher. Red has the lowest score. Red's a homeowner who holds a mortgage with the bank that's only 3 years old. Since they just purchased their home recently, the bank has scored them as low likelihood to apply for another mortgage. What the bank doesn't know is that Red is exploring relocating their family to another city to be closer to their aging parents and also to move their kids into a better school. Again, if the bank had stronger information, they really ought to rank Red with a much higher score. Let's trace what could happen if they had this view day by day as yellow and red start exhibiting signs of being in the market for a mortgage pre-qualification. Days 1 and 2 look pretty much the same, but on day 3, yellow starts researching the mortgage product pages on the bank's mobile application and chats with an online bank representative to learn more about the steps in the mortgage process. The true likelihood for yellow to apply for a mortgage just shot up, but the bank only scores their customers once a month and is missing out on monitoring this change in yellow's behavior. On day 4, things really start to heat up. Yellow has already found 2 other banks who have an easy, rapid pre-qualification process and has dropped out of communications with our friends at the regional bank. Yellow's score is starting to diminish. Meanwhile, Red has not only spent some time on the online banking web application, but has actually visited their local branch to talk with a customer service representative about branches in the city to which they're planning to relocate, and to get some educational material about mortgages and home equity loans. Unfortunately, the customer service rep has no idea about Red's online activity, and while the true likelihood for Red to apply for a mortgage has really peaked, by day 5 the regional bank has missed out on what's really going on in Red's life. By day 6, both yellow and red have concluded much of their shopping and comparison activity for mortgage pre-qualification. Their scores have dropped, and by day 15, green, yellow, and red all look exactly like they did on day 1. In many banks, in the period of day 15 to day 30, an update to the count of interactions might have registered a blip on the radar for yellow and red, but likely, green will be probably assigned a larger priority for a mortgage marketing offer than yellow and red because the bank didn't refresh their view of activity rapidly or comprehensively enough. Even more important, if they did choose to market to yellow and red, by day 15 it's too late. They really needed to interact with the customer when it mattered, in the moment when yellow and red were gathering information, performing comparisons, and making decisions. The bottom line to this illustrative example is just like athletes who anticipate and adapt, consumers have mastered the human condition of planning and decision making. We make premeditated decisions in order to pursue desirable outcomes. This insight is at the heart of what makes the Corios Veloce approach unique and more effective in predicting consumer behavior. We've tuned analytics to focus on consumers as active decision makers on a journey toward desirable outcomes. How is this different than traditional behavioral analytics, which predict the onset of a future customer event? Well, most contemporary analytics rely on looking backwards and counting instances of events or taking snapshots of consumer states at prior points in time. Traditional models rely on who we were and how many times we did something at historical points in time. But this isn't how most people think about their lives. Consumers tend to look forward rather than backwards, and they think about life as events rather than counts or averages, and they plan to make premeditated decisions. We've adapted Veloce to predict consumer behavior by building a set of tools that work with granular observations to characterize behavior over time, over horizons as short as a few minutes or as long as a few weeks. In short, we're converting transactional and event data into everyday explanations of human behavior. Now, this is harder than it sounds, because as you fine-tune the focus, the conventional ways of handling this volume of data and converting the data into a clear signal simply don't work. That's why we've created brand new techniques that are motivated by storytelling and predicting the customer journey. When a consumer premeditates their decisions and sets out on a journey, They actively pursue new information, they try to reduce uncertainty, they make course adjustments, and they adapt to changing conditions and external influences in order to pursue the desirable outcome. With the right kind of analytics, we can think like the consumer thinks, we can tell their story, monitor their events, we can project the path they're on, and most importantly, we can forecast when they're going to get there. This is what allows us to improve when we choose to interact with a consumer and proactively intercept their journey with a treatment that helps them in the pursuit of that desirable outcome. That's what finally helps you answer the question, what is the right time to interact with your customer? If you're like our other clients, you're actively trying to improve the performance of your customer interactions in order to mitigate risk, reduce costs, and enhance margins. We've been developing Corios Veloce for over a decade, and we're confident we can help you achieve improvement on your objectives by picking the right time to interact with your customers. We'd like to hear your story and be part of your journey toward improving your company's customer strategy and financial performance. Email me, Robin Way, at president@coriosgroup.com or call me at 503-295-1685 to learn about Corios Veloce and start tackling these challenges today. We look forward to the conversation.